I was sitting at the table in this upscale steakhouse, surrounded by my husband Derek's entire family, when he stood up and clinked his wine glass. His parents, Gerald and Diane, were beaming at him. His brothers, Tyler and Brett, leaned forward with their wives, all eager to hear what he had to say. Derek looked right at me with this smirk I'd never seen before and announced, "I sold your little cabin for $60,000. The table erupted in cheers. He turned back to me and added, "The money for this dinner? It's from the cabin sale. At least one meal is covered." His phone rang. His face went white. A voice screamed through the speaker, "Why are the authorities at our office?" Derek's hand was shaking as he held the phone. He stammered something unintelligible, then pulled the device away from his ear and said, "Wrong number," but his voice cracked on the last syllable. Everyone at the table was staring at him now, their celebration frozen mid-toast. I found my voice. "What do you mean you sold the cabin?" "My cabin. The one my grandmother left me 5 years ago when she passed. 3 bedrooms, completely renovated, sitting on prime lakefront property in northern Minnesota. The real estate market up there had been booming. That place was worth at least $400,000, maybe more." Derek loosened his tie. "I handled the paperwork while you were busy with work. Someone made us a good offer and I took it." "I never signed anything," I said, my voice getting louder. The couple at the next table glanced over. "Well, the sale went through, so obviously you did," Derek shot back. His mother Diane reached across and patted my hand. "Honey, Derek knows what he's doing. He's the man of the house. You were getting too emotional about that old place anyway." Old place? My grandmother had poured her heart into that cabin. Every floorboard, every window, every stone in the fireplace held a memory. I spent every summer there as a child. It was supposed to be mine. Forever. $60,000 is good money, Gerald added, raising his glass again. Derek made a smart business decision. I pulled out my phone to call my real estate attorney, Patricia. Before I could dial, Derek snatched it from my hands. "Give that back," I demanded. "You're making a scene," he hissed. His brother Tyler stood up, positioning himself next to Derek. The physical intimidation was clear. I was outnumbered at this table, in this restaurant, in this entire situation. "She's always been ungrateful," Diane said to no one in particular. "My son tries so hard and this is what he gets." The manager appeared at our table. "Folks, I'm going to have to ask you to keep it down or take this outside." We ended up in the parking lot. The spring air was cold against my face. I held out my hand. "Give me my phone. Now." Derek finally handed it over. His brothers flanked him on either side, and his parents stood behind them like this was some kind of family fortress and I was the enemy at the gates. "Just tell me the truth," I said. "What's really going on?" Derek's jaw tightened. "Fine. You want the truth? I forged your signature. I had to. We needed the money." The ground seemed to tilt under my feet. For what? I owe $75,000 to some people from a business deal that went sideways. My parents knew about it. They agreed this was the best solution. I turned to Gerald and Diane. "You knew he was going to forge my signature and steal my property?" Diane lifted her chin. "It's not stealing when you're married. What's yours is his. That's how marriage works, dear." "The cabin was my inheritance," I said, my voice shaking. "It wasn't community property. It was mine. You should be grateful Derek is trying to fix his mistakes instead of complaining about some vacation house," Tyler added. I looked at my phone. 3 missed calls from an unknown number. I pulled up my voicemail and put it on speaker. A man's panicked voice filled the parking lot. "Mrs. Thompson, this is Carl Brennan, attorney for Westbrook Holdings. Your husband sold us a property yesterday, but federal agents just raided our office. They're saying the deed is fraudulent. They're asking about money laundering. You need to call me back immediately. This is serious." Derek's face drained of all color. His family went silent. For a long moment, nobody moved. Then Derek turned and ran to his car. The engine roared to life. He reversed out of the parking spot so fast his tires squealed, and then he was gone, leaving me standing there with his family staring at me with pure hostility in their eyes. I didn't sleep that night. Derek never came home. His phone went straight to voicemail every time I called. I sat at our kitchen table with a cup of coffee I never drank, watching it grow cold as the sun came up Saturday morning. At 7 a.m., I called Carl Brennan back. He answered on the first ring. "Mrs. Thompson?" "Yes." "What's happening?" Carl's voice was tight with stress. "My company, Westbrook Holdings, purchased your cabin as an investment property. We paid $60,000 in cash. Way below market value, which should have been a red flag, but my boss pushed the deal through. Yesterday afternoon, the FBI showed up with a warrant. They seized all our records. We're under investigation for money laundering." My hands went numb. Money laundering? They say we've been buying undervalued properties with cash as a way to clean illegal funds. I swear to you, I didn't know. I thought this was a legitimate transaction. But now, I'm lawyering up, and I strongly suggest you do the same. I called my attorney Patricia immediately after hanging up with Carl. She'd known me for 6 years, handled the estate paperwork when my grandmother died. "Liz, slow down," she said after I'd rushed through the whole story. "Let me pull up the documents." "What documents?" "Derek emailed me copies about 3 months ago. Said you wanted everything organized for tax purposes." 3 months ago. He'd been planning this for 3 months. Patricia was quiet while she reviewed whatever was on her screen. "The signature on the deed looks legitimate at first glance, but I'd need a handwriting expert to be sure. The notary stamp is there. The deed has already been transferred and recorded at the county level. Liz, even if we prove forgery, reversing this could take months, maybe years." "But it's fraud," I said. "He stole my property." "I know, but with the FBI involved, this just became a criminal matter. I handle civil cases. You need a different kind of attorney now." After I hung up with Patricia, I checked our bank accounts online. Our joint checking account, which usually had about $12,000 in it, now showed a balance of $317. I logged into my personal savings account, the one I'd been building for 10 years, also nearly empty. Just $200 left. Derek had access to both accounts. Years ago, I'd added him as a joint owner for emergencies. I'd trusted him. I calculated quickly. He'd taken about $47,000 total from our combined accounts. With the $60,000 from the cabin sale, that was over $100,000 he'd gotten his hands on. My retirement account was the only thing untouched. He couldn't access that without my signature, and apparently even he had limits. My phone rang. "Diane." "This is your fault," she shrieked before I could say hello. "You called the FBI on my son. You're trying to destroy him." "I didn't call anyone," I said. "I didn't even know about this until last night." "Liar. If Derek goes to jail because of you, we will make sure you lose everything. You'll have nothing. You hear me? Nothing." She hung up. 10 minutes later, Tyler was pounding on my front door. I opened it with the chain still on. "What do you want?" "You need to fix this," he demanded. "Call the FBI. Tell them it was a mistake." "I can't fix something I didn't do, Tyler." He slammed his palm against the doorframe. "Derek owes money to serious people. Do you understand? The kind of people who don't forget debts. He needed that cabin money to stay alive." "What are you talking about?" Tyler laughed, but there was no humor in it. "You really don't know? Derek's been gambling. Illegal poker games. High stakes. He lost big. Really big. He owes money to people you don't want to know about. Our family pooled $30,000 to help him, but he still needed $45,000 more. That's why he sold your precious cabin and cleaned out your accounts." He turned to leave, then stopped. "If those people come looking for their money, and Derek can't pay because you got him arrested, they'll come for you instead. Think about that. I drove the 3 hours north to the cabin. I had to see it with my own eyes. When I pulled up the long gravel driveway, my chest tightened. The cabin looked the same from the outside. Same cedar siding, same green metal roof, same wraparound porch where my grandmother used to sit and watch the sunset. But when I tried the door, it was locked with a new deadbolt I didn't have a key for. I walked around to the back and found a window I could open. I climbed through. The inside was empty. Everything was gone. My grandmother's handmade quilts, her rocking chair, the dining table my grandfather built by hand, the photographs on the walls, the dishes in the cabinets, everything. My neighbor, Mrs. Kowalski, must have seen me climb through the window because she came over and knocked. "Liz, what are you doing here?" "This is my cabin," I said, opening the door for her. "What happened to all the furniture?" Mrs. Kowalski looked uncomfortable. "Moving trucks came on Tuesday. 3 of them. Men in dark suits loaded everything up. They didn't look like movers, though. They looked more like, I don't know, agents or something. Very official." I remembered the hidden compartment under the floorboards in the main bedroom. My grandmother had shown it to me when I was 12, made me promise to never tell anyone. "This is where we keep what matters," she'd said. I went to the bedroom and pried up the loose boards. The compartment was still there. Inside was a small wooden box containing my grandmother's jewelry, some old photographs, and an envelope with my name on it. The letter inside was dated 6 months before she died. "Liz, if anything happens to me, know that this cabin is only for you. Never let anyone take it from you. It's worth more than you know. Your grandfather and I chose this land very carefully. Remember that. All my love, Grandma Eleanor." Worth more than I know? What did that mean? I put the jewelry and letter in my purse and headed back to my car. 2 people were waiting for me there. They held up badges. "Mrs. Elizabeth Thompson?" the woman said. "I'm Special Agent Sandra Morris. This is Special Agent James Kwan. We need to ask you some questions about your recent property transaction." "I didn't sell anything," I said immediately. My husband forged my signature. Agent Morris and Agent Kwan exchanged a look. "That's interesting," Agent Kwan said, "because bank records show you deposited $30,000 in cash at First National Bank last month. Large cash deposits are flagged automatically. That's how we started looking into this." "What?" "I never deposited any cash. I haven't been to that bank in months." Agent Morris pulled out her phone and showed me a photograph. Security camera footage from inside a bank. A woman who looked like me, similar build and hair color, wearing sunglasses and a hat, pushing a deposit slip across the counter. "That's not me," I said. "The teller's statement says the woman showed your ID and made a cash deposit into your account," Agent Kwan said. $30,000. Someone had impersonated me. Someone had my identification, or a fake version good enough to fool a bank teller. "I think you need to come with us," Agent Morris said. "We have more questions." They didn't arrest me that Saturday, but they made it very clear I was a person of interest. I was told not to leave the state. Agent Morris gave me her card and said they'd be in touch soon, very soon. By Monday morning, everything had collapsed. Agent Morris called at 8 a.m. to explain the full scope of what I'd stumbled into. Westbrook Holdings had laundered over $2 million through property purchases in the last 18 months. They'd buy properties from owners at below market prices, pay in cash, and somehow the property owners would later deposit large amounts of cash into their accounts. The FBI believed the owners were willing participants, taking a cut of laundered money in exchange for facilitating the sales. But I didn't participate in anything, I told her. I didn't even know about the sale. "That's convenient," Agent Kwan's voice came through the speaker. They were both on the call. "Your husband disappears right when we show up, and you claim complete ignorance." "Where is Derek?" Agent Morris asked. I don't know. I really don't. An hour later, I got a call from my bank. All my accounts had been frozen pending the federal investigation. I had zero access to money. Not the $300 in checking. Not the $200 in savings. Not my retirement account. Nothing. I couldn't pay my mortgage. Couldn't buy groceries. Couldn't put gas in my car. I had $53 in my wallet, and that was it. Then my boss called. I'd worked as a marketing director at a mid-sized tech company for 7 years. Good job, good salary, good reputation. All of that was about to disappear. Liz, you need to come to my office, he said. His voice was strained. When I got there, he showed me an email that had been sent to everyone in the company. The subject line read, "Did you know Liz Thompson is under FBI investigation for money laundering?" The email included a link to a local news article about the Westbrook Holdings investigation. The article mentioned several property owners believed to be cooperating with the scheme. "I have to put you on unpaid leave," my boss said. "It's coming from corporate. I'm sorry. The company's reputation is at stake." "But I didn't do anything wrong," I said. "This is all a mistake." He looked genuinely sympathetic. "I believe you, but my hands are tied. As soon as this clears up, we'll talk about bringing you back." If it clears up, I thought. Right now, it looked like I was being buried alive. I drove home in a daze. When I pulled into my driveway, Derek's family had already started their social media campaign against me. Diane had posted on her personal account, which had over 2,000 followers, claiming that I'd involved Derek in criminal activity and that he was a victim of my manipulation. The post had been shared 400 times. People I'd never met were commenting, calling me awful names, saying I should be in prison. My phone was exploding with messages. Most were hostile. A few friends reached out to ask if I was okay, but I could feel their doubt. They didn't know what to believe. Derek showed up at the house Monday evening. I almost didn't recognize him. He hadn't shaved. His clothes were wrinkled, and he smelled like he'd been sleeping in his car. "Where have you been?" I demanded. "Hiding. I was scared." He pushed past me into the house. "This is all going to blow over. We just need to stay calm." "Stay calm?" "Derek, the FBI thinks I'm a criminal. I've lost my job. Our accounts are frozen. There's nothing calm about this situation." He collapsed onto the couch. I got in over my head. "I met some guys through Tyler. They said they could make me rich. Easy money. I quit my job to play poker full-time." "You what?" "I quit 6 months ago. I've been pretending to go to work every day. At first I was winning. I won almost $100,000. Then I started losing. I couldn't stop. I kept thinking I could win it back. I felt like I was talking to a stranger." "Who are you?" His phone buzzed on the coffee table. Before he could grab it, I picked it up. The contact name was just the letter A. The messages that popped up on the screen made my stomach turn. "Baby, stick to the plan. Let her take the fall. Then we can be together." I looked at him. "Who is A?" Derek tried to take the phone from me, but I held it away. I scrolled through the messages, dozens of them. Intimate, romantic, planning a future together. "Who is she?" I asked again. "Her name is Amber," he said quietly. "Amber Chen. We've been together for 8 months. 8 months. While I was working 60-hour weeks to keep us afloat financially. While I was paying all our bills because I thought he was still working. While I was trusting him." "Who is she?" I asked. Derek looked at the floor. "She works for Westbrook Holdings. She's a facilitator. She connects buyers with sellers. She's the one who told me about the cabin sale opportunity." Before I could process this, the front door burst open. FBI agents flooded into the house. Agent Morris was at the front, and she wasn't alone. 6 agents with weapons drawn. "Derek Thompson, you're under arrest for wire fraud, conspiracy to commit fraud, and forgery." They handcuffed him while reading him his rights, As they pulled him toward the door, Derek looked back at me. "This is your fault. If you'd just given me the cabin willingly, none of this would have happened." Agent Morris stayed behind after the others left with Derek. She sat down across from me at the kitchen table. "We found something else," she said. "Your husband opened 3 credit cards in your name over the last 6 months. He also took out a home equity loan using your cabin as collateral before he sold it. The total debt in your name is $120,000. I couldn't speak, couldn't breathe. "Your credit score has been destroyed," Agent Morris continued. "I'm sorry. I know this is a lot to take in. But you should also know we're still investigating you. Just because we arrested Derek doesn't mean you're in the clear." After she left, I sat in the dark house alone. No money, no job, under federal investigation, massive debt I didn't create. My husband in jail. His mistress, part of the conspiracy. I'd lost everything. 1 week after Derek's arrest, I moved in with my friend Harper. I had nowhere else to go. The mortgage company was already threatening foreclosure. Credit card companies called every hour, leaving threatening voicemails. I had no way to pay anything. Harper had been my friend since college. She believed me when I told her the whole story, which made her one of only 3 people left in my life who did. "You're going to get through this," she said, making up the guest room for me. "We'll figure it out." But I couldn't see how. Every morning I woke up feeling like I was drowning. Derek's family escalated their campaign against me. Gerald hired an aggressive attorney who filed an emergency motion, claiming I had coerced Derek into marriage, manipulated him financially, and driven him to crime through emotional abuse. They wanted Derek released on bail, which required collateral they didn't have, unless they could somehow claim I was the real criminal and he was the victim. Gerald showed up at Harper's house on Thursday. Harper answered the door, and I heard him from the bedroom where I was trying to find the energy to get dressed. "Where is she?" he shouted. "Where's that gold-digging witch who destroyed my son?" Harper blocked the doorway. "You need to leave, right now. My son is in jail because of her. She planned this whole thing. She's a manipulative snake who saw a meal ticket and took it." I came to the door. "I didn't do anything to Derek. He did this to himself." Gerald's face was red. "You're going to drop all charges and tell the FBI this was a misunderstanding. You're going to fix this." "I didn't file charges. The federal government did. I can't drop anything." "Then we will ruin you," he said. "We have money. We have connections. We will make sure you end up in prison where you belong." Harper called the police. Gerald left before they arrived, but not before screaming that this wasn't over. My legal situation got worse. Patricia, my civil attorney, called to say she could no longer represent me. There was a conflict of interest now, that both criminal and civil cases were tangled together. She recommended a criminal defense attorney, but his retainer was $50,000. I had nothing. I was assigned a public defender. Her name was Amy Garcia. She seemed competent, but completely overwhelmed. She had 42 active cases. Mine was just one more file on her enormous stack. "I'll do my best," she told me during our first meeting. "But I have to be honest with you. The evidence against you looks bad. Really bad. But I didn't do anything." "I believe you. But belief doesn't win cases. Evidence does. And right now, the evidence says you deposited cash, your signature is on documents, and your husband claims you knew about everything." Derek was released on bail 3 days later. His family had mortgaged their house to come up with the $500,000 bond. The first thing he did was give an interview to a local news station. I watched it on Harper's TV, my stomach churning. "My wife knew about everything," Derek said, looking directly at the camera with tears in his eyes. "She planned the whole scheme. I was trying to protect her. I love her. I didn't want to see her go to prison, so I took the fall. But I can't lie anymore. The truth is, Liz orchestrated this from the beginning." The news anchor asked, "Do you have proof?" Derek's attorney held up a phone. We have text messages between Derek and Liz discussing the cabin sale, the cash deposits, everything. We'll be turning these over to federal prosecutors. I'd never sent those texts, but I knew Derek was smart enough to have manufactured them somehow. Maybe using my phone while I was sleeping. Maybe creating fake screenshots. Either way, public opinion turned completely against me. The comments on the news station's social media were vicious. People I'd never met called me evil, a con artist, a criminal mastermind. Some even said I should get the death penalty. 2 days later, Amber Chen contacted me directly. The message came through social media. We should talk. Meet me at Coffee Corner Cafe tomorrow at 3. I knew I shouldn't go, but I needed to understand what I was up against. Amber was beautiful, mid-30s, perfectly dressed, confident in a way that made me feel small. We sat at a corner table, away from other customers. "I'll get right to the point," she said. "Derek and I have been together for 2 years, not 8 months like he told you. 2 years. My entire marriage had been a lie. He promised me half of everything once you were out of the picture," Amber continued. "He said you were abusive, controlling, that you monitored all his money and didn't let him have any freedom. He made you sound like a monster. None of that is true. I know that now." She pulled out her phone and started showing me photos. Derek with her at my cabin. The photos were dated from last summer. Derek with her at our house, in our bed, when I'd been traveling for work. Derek with her at family gatherings. His family had told me I wasn't invited to because they were just immediate family. "His whole family loves me," Amber said. "Diane tells people I'm the daughter she never had. They think I'm perfect for Derek." "Why are you showing me this?" Amber smiled. It wasn't a kind smile. "Because I want you to know exactly what you lost. Derek's going to be mine. You're going to prison. And I'm going to have the life that should have been mine all along." She stood up. "Oh, one more thing. I'm pregnant. Derek's going to be a father. We're planning a family together. Just thought you should know." She left. I sat there, unable to move. Harper had to come get me because I was having a panic attack so severe I couldn't drive. We ended up in the emergency room. A doctor gave me medication for anxiety and told me I needed to see a therapist regularly. I couldn't afford therapy. I couldn't afford anything. Agent Morris called the next morning with more bad news. "We've found additional evidence," she said. "Someone using your identity made large cash deposits at 5 different banks over the last 4 months. We have surveillance footage from all of them. The woman in the videos matches your description." "It's not me. The handwriting experts we consulted say the signatures could potentially be yours. The analysis isn't conclusive, but it's enough to build a case." "This isn't fair," I said. My voice broke. "I'm being framed, and no one believes me." "We're just following the evidence, Mrs. Thompson. We'd like you to take a polygraph test." Amy, my public defender, advised against it. "Polygraphs aren't admissible in court anyway. You shouldn't do it." But I had nothing to hide. I agreed. I took the test at the FBI field office 2 days later. They asked me dozens of questions. "Did you know about the cabin sale? Did you deposit cash at First National Bank? Did you participate in money laundering?" No. 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 Afterward, the examiner said the results were inconclusive. Not a pass, not a fail. Just inconclusive, which somehow felt worse than either option. As I was leaving the FBI office, I saw her. A woman in a business suit was walking down the hallway with 2 agents. She turned to look in my direction. I froze. She looked exactly like me. Same height, same build, same hair color and style, similar facial features. For a split second, we made direct eye contact. She smiled. It was cold and calculated. Then she turned and walked away with the agents. I ran after them. "Wait! Who is that woman?" Agent Morris appeared from a side office. "Mrs. Thompson, you need to leave. That woman looks just like me." She's the one who's been impersonating me. I don't know what you're talking about. You just walked past her. The woman in the gray suit. Agent Morris's expression didn't change. That information is confidential. She's cooperating with our investigation. That's all I can tell you. She looks exactly like me. That's not a coincidence. But Agent Morris just repeated that I needed to leave the building. Security escorted me out. I sat in my car in the parking lot, my hands shaking on the steering wheel. There was a professional impersonator. Someone who looked like me had been making deposits, forging signatures, creating an entire paper trail. And the FBI knew about her. They knew, and they still treated me like a suspect. Derek's family had the resources to hire someone like that. The question was, how long had they been planning this? How long had I been walking into this trap? 2 weeks passed. 2 weeks of pure torture. I spent every waking hour trying to find information about the woman I'd seen at the FBI office. I searched online for professional impersonators, identity theft cases, anything that might give me a lead. Nothing. Derek filed for divorce. The papers cited irreconcilable differences and emotional abuse. He also filed for a restraining order, claiming I'd threatened him. I'd never threatened anyone in my life, but the court granted a temporary order anyway. I was prohibited from going within 500 feet of Derek, his family, or our house. Derek immediately moved Amber into our home. My home. The house I'd been paying the mortgage on for 7 years. He posted photos on social media. Him and Amber in our living room, her hand on her barely visible pregnant belly, caption reading, "Finally happy with someone who supports me unconditionally." The humiliation was endless. Then I received an anonymous email. The sender field was blank. No name. The subject line just said, "Truth." I almost deleted it, thinking it was spam or another hate message, but something made me open it. Inside was a single attachment, an encrypted file. The password hint read, "Your grandmother's favorite flower." I sat there thinking. My grandmother had loved so many flowers. Roses? No. Daisies? No. Then I remembered. The lilac bushes she'd planted all around the cabin. She called them her purple treasures. I typed, "Lilac." The file opened. What I saw made my blood run cold. Photos of Derek with Amber going back 2 years. Not 8 months, 2 full years. They were at restaurants, on vacation together. At what looked like a wedding, dancing close. Time. Stamped photos that proved this affair had been happening since before I'd even started having problems with Derek. Bank statements showing Derek had received $200,000 from an offshore account 4 months before the cabin sale. A wire transfer with a memo line that read, "Down payment for project." Text messages between Derek and Amber that laid out the entire plan. Derek. Once she's in prison, everything she has becomes mine under survivorship laws. The house, her retirement, everything. Amber. Are you sure this will work? Derek. My family has it all figured out. We found someone who looks just like her. She'll make the deposits, forge the signatures. By the time Liz figures out what's happening, it'll be too late. The evidence against her will be overwhelming. Amber. And then we can finally be together. Derek. With enough money to live the life we deserve. There were photos of Derek meeting with Tyler and Brett, and 3 men in expensive suits. The timestamps showed these meetings happened 6 months before the cabin sale. They'd been planning this for at least that long. And then, the most damning evidence. Photos of the woman who looked like me. She was meeting with Derek's family at a restaurant. She was practicing my signature at a table covered with documents. She was being fitted with a wig that matched my hairstyle exactly. Whoever sent this email had been watching Derek's family for months, maybe years. They'd documented everything. I immediately printed every document and drove to the FBI field office. Agent Morris took me into an interview room. I spread the papers across the table. "This proves I was framed," I said. Derek and his family planned this entire thing. They hired someone to impersonate me. Agent Morris picked up one of the photos. Her expression was neutral. Where did you get these? Anonymous email. From who? I don't know. There was no sender information. Agent Kwan joined us. He looked at the documents, then at me. These could be fabricated. You could have created them yourself. Why would I do that? To create reasonable doubt, Agent Morris said. To manufacture an alternative theory of the crime. This isn't manufactured. Look at the dates. Look at the bank transfers. You can verify all of this. Agent Morris gathered the papers. We'll look into it. But you need to understand, even if these documents are genuine, they don't necessarily prove your innocence. They just show your husband was involved in something. We already know that. He's been arrested. What about the woman who looks like me? The one you said was cooperating with your investigation? Agent Morris's expression didn't change. I never said anything about a woman who looks like you. Yes, you did. In the hallway last week. Agent Kwan leaned forward. Mrs. Thompson, you're under a lot of stress. Sometimes stress can make us remember things that didn't happen or misinterpret what we saw. They were gaslighting me. The FBI was actively gaslighting me. The next day, they arrested me. 2 agents showed up at Harper's house at 6 a.m. They read me my rights while Harper stood in her pajamas, tears streaming down her face. I was charged with conspiracy to commit money laundering, bank fraud, and identity fraud. Bail was set at $250,000. I had no way to pay it, no family to help me, no resources at all. I went to county jail. My cellmate was a woman named Trina. She was in her 40s, covered in tattoos, with a world-weary expression that said she'd seen everything. What are you in for? She asked that first night. I told her the whole story. It poured out of me in a rush. Everything. The cabin, Derek, his family, the impersonator, the frame job. When I finished, Trina nodded slowly. You've been set up proper. I've seen this kind of thing before. Someone wanted what you had, and they got organized to take it. I just want my life back. Then you need to start thinking like them. What did you have that they wanted so badly? A cabin worth $400,000? That's good money, but it's not enough to organize this level of conspiracy. There's something bigger here. Like what? I don't know. But that cabin meant something. Think harder. I lay awake that night on the thin jail mattress, thinking about my grandmother, about the letter she'd left me. The cabin is worth more than you know. My grandmother had worked for a mining company in the 1960s. She'd mentioned it a few times when I was a child. The cabin land had been purchased from the mining company when they'd closed their operations in that area. Using the limited computer access available in the jail library the next day, I started researching. The mining company had extracted copper and iron ore from the area around the cabin for decades. They'd shut down in the early 70s when the veins ran dry. But recent news articles mentioned something interesting. A new geological survey of northern Minnesota had found significant deposits of rare earth elements. The same area where my cabin stood. Rare earth elements were used in everything from smartphones to electric car batteries to military technology. They were incredibly valuable. Properties with confirmed deposits could be worth millions. My grandmother must have known. That's why she'd specifically left the cabin to me. That's why she'd written worth more than you know. Derek and his family had somehow found out about the geological survey. They'd planned this entire scheme not for a $400,000 cabin, but for a property potentially worth $30 million or more. My public defender came to visit 3 days later. We have a problem, Amy said. Another one? Derek's attorney filed a motion to have you declared mentally incompetent. They're claiming your conspiracy theories about being framed show you're having a psychotic break. They want to have you institutionalized. What? There's a hearing in 3 days. If they win, Derek would be able to make medical and financial decisions for you as next of kin. He'd control all your remaining assets. This is insane. I'm not mentally ill. Amy looked uncomfortable. Liz, I have to be honest with you. The evidence against you is really strong. The conspiracy theory about an impersonator and your husband's family planning this for years, it does sound kind of paranoid. The judge might see it as evidence of mental illness. You don't believe me either. I'm trying to help you, but you're making it really hard. The best defense I can mount is a mental illness defense. We can argue you weren't in your right mind when all this happened. It's better than prison. I stared at her. My own attorney thought I was either a criminal or crazy. Those were my only two options in her eyes. I'm not taking a mental illness plea. I'm innocent. Amy sighed. That's exactly what someone who's mentally ill would say. I was in jail for 6 days before Harper came to visit with someone I'd never met. The woman was in her mid-50s, professionally dressed, with sharp eyes that seemed to take in everything. She introduced herself as Claudia Brooks, investigative journalist. I've been researching Westbrook Holdings for 8 months, Claudia said, sitting across from me in the visitor's room. When I saw your case in the news, something didn't add up. I started digging. Liz, I think you're innocent, and I think I can prove it. For the first time in weeks, I felt a tiny spark of hope. Claudia pulled out a folder full of documents. I found connections between Westbrook Holdings and your husband's family that the FBI either missed or ignored. Gerald Thompson worked for a Westbrook subsidiary called Northern Investment Group 15 years ago. Diane Thompson is a second cousin to one of the current Westbrook executives. Tyler Thompson has 3 offshore accounts tied to the same Cayman Islands bank that Westbrook uses for their transactions. So this was a family conspiracy from the start. Exactly. But there's more. I found the woman who's been impersonating you. My heart stopped. Who is she? Her name is Ashley Morgan. She's a professional con artist who specializes in identity theft. She's done this before. She has 6 prior arrests in different states under different names. She's worked with Westbrook Holdings on at least 2 other property scams. Claudia showed me photos. Ashley Morgan looked enough like me to be my sister. Same build, same coloring. With the right wig and makeup, she could definitely pass for me, especially on grainy bank security footage. I have her criminal history. Bank records showing she was paid $50,000 from a Westbrook account. Hotel receipts placing her in your area during each of the cash deposits. She's the key to everything. Why are you helping me? I asked. Because I'm tired of watching wealthy people destroy innocent lives and get away with it. And because I want an exclusive on your story when this is over. I would have given her anything at that point. Yes, whatever you need. Harper spoke up. Liz, there's something else. Claudia thinks your grandmother's cabin is worth a lot more than anyone realized. The rare earth deposits, I said. I figured that out. Claudia nodded, impressed. Smart. That's exactly right. Recent geological surveys show your property could be worth between $20 and $30 million. Derek and his family somehow got access to those survey results before they were made public. That's what this whole thing has been about. We need to get back into the cabin, I said. My grandmother left some things hidden there. Documents, jewelry. There might be something that helps prove all this. The property is locked down tight. Westbrook has security patrolling 24/7. I know a way in, I said, and I know exactly where to look. Harper and Claudia went to the cabin that night. I gave them detailed instructions, which window was always loose, where the hidden floorboard compartment was, what to look for. They called me from a secure line at 2 in the morning. We got it, Harper said, breathless. We found everything, the jewelry, the photos, and, Liz, there's something else. An original deed to the property from 1967. It shows the mineral rights were never transferred to the mining company. Your grandmother retained all subsurface rights. That meant the rare earth deposits belonged to me. Not Westbrook Holdings, not Derek, me. Claudia took all the evidence directly to FBI headquarters the next morning. She refused to deal with Agent Morris. Instead, she demanded to speak with the special agent in charge for the entire field office. His name was Richard Torres. Unlike Agent Morris, he listened. Claudia spread everything across his desk: the photos of Ashley Morgan, her criminal history, the bank records proving she'd been paid by Westbrook, the offshore account connections to Derek's family, the original deed showing mineral rights. Every piece of evidence that proved I'd been framed. Torres studied everything carefully. Then he picked up his phone and made several calls. 1 hour later, he called Claudia back to his office. "We have a problem," Torres said. "A serious one. Agent Morris has been compromised." He showed them evidence his internal affairs team had uncovered. Agent Morris had received large cash payments from an offshore account over the last 6 months, the same account tied to Westbrook Holdings. She'd been sabotaging the investigation from the inside, ignoring evidence that cleared me, deliberately building a case against me while protecting the real criminals. "She's been working with them the whole time," Torres said. "And Agent Kwan suspected something but had no proof until now." Torres moved fast. He ordered FBI tactical teams to raid multiple locations simultaneously: Ashley Morgan's apartment, Derek's family home, Westbrook Holdings' main office, 3 different banks where the fraud had occurred. They found everything. At Ashley Morgan's apartment, they found wigs, makeup, fake identification cards with my name, practice pages where she'd been perfecting my signature. At Derek's parents' house, they found documents showing the entire conspiracy timeline. Text messages, planning notes, payment records. Ashley Morgan was arrested within hours. When they offered her a deal to testify against everyone else in exchange for a reduced sentence, she didn't hesitate. She agreed immediately. They brought her to FBI headquarters, where she gave a full videotaped confession. She named everyone involved: Derek, Tyler, Brett, Gerald, Diane, Amber, 3 Westbrook executives, and Agent Morris. Ashley explained how they'd found her through criminal connections Tyler had made during his own past legal troubles. How they'd paid her $50,000 to impersonate me. How she'd spent weeks studying my mannerisms, my signature, everything about me. How Derek had stolen my identification and given it to her to study. She even admitted they'd planned to kill me eventually. Once I was declared mentally incompetent, they were going to arrange an accident. Make it look like I'd hurt myself during a mental health crisis. Derek would inherit everything, split it with his family and Amber, and I'd be gone. Special Agent Torres came to the jail personally to tell me the news. "All charges against you are dropped immediately," he said. "I'm authorizing your release right now, and I owe you an apology on behalf of the FBI. We failed you. Agent Morris's corruption nearly cost you your life." I couldn't speak, couldn't process it. After weeks of being treated like a criminal, suddenly I was free. "There's more," Torres continued. "We arrested 14 people in the last 3 hours. Derek Thompson, Tyler Thompson, Brett Thompson, Gerald Thompson, Diane Thompson, Amber Chen, 3 Westbrook Holdings executives, Ashley Morgan, 2 bank employees who were part of the scheme, and Agent Sandra Morris." "What about Derek's plan to have me killed?" "We have text messages between Derek and Tyler discussing it. They were planning to stage your death within the next 2 weeks. We got to you just in time." Harper was waiting outside the jail with Claudia. I walked out into the sunshine, and for the first time in weeks, I could breathe. News cameras were everywhere. Claudia had alerted the media that this was the moment. She wanted the world to see me walk free while Derek and his family were being walked into the same jail I was leaving. And that's exactly what happened. As I walked to Harper's car, 3 police vans pulled up. Derek was in the first one. Our eyes met through the window. His face was full of rage. Mine was calm. I'd survived. I'd won. 3 months later, I stood on the porch of my cabin, watching the sun set over the lake. The legal aftermath had been swift and decisive. All charges against me were dismissed with prejudice, meaning they could never be filed again. Derek had pleaded guilty to fraud, conspiracy, forgery, and conspiracy to commit murder. He was sentenced to 15 years in federal prison with no possibility of parole. His parents, Gerald and Diane, each received 8 years. Tyler and Brett got 10 years each. Amber Chen was facing her own trial. The prosecutors had so much evidence against her that her attorney was advising her to take a plea deal. She was looking at 7 to 12 years. Agent Sandra Morris got 20 years for corruption, conspiracy, and obstruction of justice. Her FBI career was over, her pension revoked, her reputation destroyed. Ashley Morgan was serving 3 years in a federal facility for identity theft and fraud. Her testimony had been crucial in convicting everyone else. As for Westbrook Holdings, the entire company had been dissolved. The executives were facing decades in prison. Their assets were being seized to compensate their victims. The FBI had helped me recover every dollar Derek had stolen. All the money from the cabin sale. All the money he'd taken from our accounts. Everything. The cabin deed had been restored to my name with full mineral rights intact. Within days of my release, I'd been contacted by a major mining corporation. They wanted to develop the rare earth deposits on my property. After negotiations with an excellent attorney Patricia had recommended, we'd signed a partnership agreement. They would handle all the extraction and processing. I would receive 60% of all royalties. The geologists estimated the deposits were worth $28 million over the next 10 years. My first payment had been $4 million. I'd paid off every debt Derek had created in my name. My credit score had been restored. The mortgage on our house was paid in full, and then I'd sold the house. I never wanted to live there again. I'd also filed civil lawsuits against Derek's entire family for defamation, emotional distress, and conspiracy. With all the criminal evidence available, my case was ironclad. The court had awarded me $3.5 million in damages. To pay the judgment, the court had forced the sale of their house, their cars, their business assets, everything. They lost it all, just as they'd tried to do to me. My job had offered me my position back, along with a promotion and a substantial raise as an apology for the way they'd handled everything. I'd declined. I didn't need the job anymore, and honestly, I didn't want to work for a company that had abandoned me so quickly. Instead, Harper and I had started our own consulting firm. We specialized in helping small businesses with marketing and brand development. The company was thriving. We had more clients than we could handle. Claudia's investigative series on my case had won multiple journalism awards. Her articles had exposed corruption at multiple levels and led to reforms in how the FBI handled fraud investigations. She'd written a book about the case, and I'd received a generous portion of the proceeds. I'd also gotten book deal offers, documentary offers, even a movie offer. I was selective about what I agreed to. Some stories needed to be told, but I was protective of my privacy and my healing process. The divorce from Derek had been finalized quickly. Since he was in federal prison and had no assets left, there was nothing to fight over. I got everything by default. The restraining order was now permanent. He was forbidden from ever contacting me again. As for the cabin, I'd done something I thought my grandmother would have loved. I'd renovated it completely and turned it into a retreat center for women recovering from financial abuse, domestic abuse, and fraud. The center was called Eleanor's Haven, named after my grandmother. The retreat was fully funded by my mining royalties. Women could stay for free, for as long as they needed. We provided therapy services, legal assistance, financial counseling, job training, whatever they needed to rebuild their lives. I'd hired a full staff of therapists, attorneys, and counselors. In just 3 months, we'd helped 37 women get back on their feet. And personally, I was healing. I'd been seeing a therapist twice a week, processing the trauma, learning to trust again, working through the betrayal and the fear. I'd also started dating someone. Special Agent Richard Torres and I had stayed in touch after the case closed. He'd reached out a few weeks later to check on me, and we'd met for coffee. Then dinner. Then more dinners. He was patient, understanding. He knew what I'd been through, and he never pushed. We were taking things slowly, but I could feel myself opening up to the possibility of happiness again. Harper visited the cabin often, usually bringing her 2 kids. They loved the lake. Watching them play in the water reminded me that life could be simple and joyful again. One evening, Harper and I sat on the dock watching the sunset paint the sky orange and pink. "Do you ever think about Derek?" she asked. "Sometimes," I admitted, "but not the way you'd think." "What do you mean?" "I used to think about revenge, about making him suffer the way he made me suffer. But now I just feel free." "He took everything from you, though." "He tried," I said, "but he failed. And in failing, he gave me something unexpected." "What's that?" "He showed me who I really am. Not the woman who compromised herself to keep the peace in her marriage. Not the woman who ignored red flags because she wanted to believe the best in people. The woman who fights back. The woman who survives. The woman who turns her pain into something that helps others." Harper put her arm around me. "Your grandmother would be so proud." I pulled out my grandmother's locket, the one I wore every day now. Inside was the old photo of her at the cabin, groundbreaking. She looked strong and confident, like she knew exactly who she was. "I look like her now," I said. "Not just physically, in my eyes, the same strength." A few weeks later, I was invited to speak at a women's conference about financial literacy and protecting yourself from fraud. 300 women in the audience. I stood at the podium, looking out at all those faces, and I knew this was where I was supposed to be. I shared my story, all of it, the betrayal, the frame job, the arrest, the fight back, the victory, and then I shared what I'd learned. Trust your instincts when something feels wrong. If your partner is being secretive about money, that's a red flag. If someone is pressuring you to sign documents without reading them, stop. If your name is on legal paperwork, you have the right and the responsibility to understand what you're signing. Never give anyone complete access to your finances, even your spouse. Have your own account that only you control. Know where all your important documents are. Make copies. Store them safely. Blood relations don't guarantee loyalty. Derek's entire family betrayed me because they valued money more than integrity. Choose your people carefully, and don't be afraid to cut ties with toxic family members. When you're being framed or gaslit, document everything. Keep records. Save texts and emails. Take photos. Evidence is your best defense. The truth always surfaces eventually. It might take time. It might take longer than you want. But lies have short legs, as my grandmother used to say. They can't run far. Recovery is possible even from total devastation. I lost my job, my money, my home, my reputation, and almost my freedom. And I got it all back and more. You can survive this. Whatever you're going through, you can survive it. Your worth isn't defined by what others take from you. Derek took my property and my money. He tried to take my freedom and my life. But he couldn't take my strength, my intelligence, or my refusal to accept injustice. Those things are mine. They're inside me, and nobody can steal them. The applause was thunderous. Afterward, dozens of women came up to share their own stories. Women who'd been scammed by partners, women who'd survived financial abuse, women who were just starting to fight back. I gave each of them my card for Eleanor's Haven. "You're not alone," I told them. "We can help." That night, I returned to the cabin. Richard was there, having driven up to surprise me. We cooked dinner together, then sat on the porch in my grandmother's old rocking chairs. "I'm proud of you," he said. "For what?" "For turning the worst thing that ever happened to you into something that helps other people, that takes a special kind of strength. I thought about that. A year ago, I'd been a woman who avoided conflict, who tried to keep everyone happy, who made myself small to accommodate others. Derek and his family had nearly destroyed that woman, but in the process, they'd revealed someone stronger underneath. Someone who wouldn't back down. Someone who knew her worth. My grandmother left me more than a cabin, I said. She left me an example of how to be strong. I just had to go through hell to understand it. Richard took my hand. We sat in comfortable silence, watching the stars come out over the lake. My phone buzzed. A text from Patricia, my attorney. Final judgment came through. Derek's family's last appeal was denied. It's over. You won. I showed Richard the message. He smiled. How does it feel? Like I can finally breathe all the way. That night, alone in my grandmother's cabin, I wrote in the journal my therapist had recommended I keep. Dear Grandma Eleanor, they tried to bury me. They didn't know I was a seed. You planted that seed years ago when you gave me this land. Derek watered it with his betrayal. His family tried to poison it with their lies. But I grew anyway. I grew into someone stronger than any of them could have imagined. The cabin is still mine. The land is still mine. But more than that, I'm still me. And nobody can take that away. Thank you for teaching me to fight. Thank you for believing I was worth protecting. Thank you for knowing that this place would save me someday. I promise to honor your legacy. Eleanor's Haven will help women find their strength the way you helped me find mine. Your story will live on, my story will live on. And together, we'll make sure no woman has to face what I faced alone. I love you. I miss you. And I'm finally at peace. Your granddaughter, Liz. I closed the journal and looked around the cabin. Everything was quiet, except for the gentle sound of waves lapping against the dock. I'd lost everything and gained everything back. But more than that, I'd discovered who I really was underneath the wife, the employee, the people, pleaser. I'd found the woman who refuses to be broken, the woman who fights back, the woman who wins. Derek was in prison. His family was ruined. Agent Morris was behind bars. Westbrook Holdings was dissolved. Justice had been served in every possible way. And me? I was free. Truly, completely free. I walked out onto the porch one last time before bed. The moon was full, casting silver light across the lake. The water was calm and beautiful. My grandmother's lilac bushes filled the air with their sweet scent. I did it, Grandma, I whispered to the night. I fought back. I won. And I'm going to spend the rest of my life helping other women do the same. The wind rustled through the trees, and I swear I could hear her voice in it. I always knew you would, sweetheart. I always knew. I stood there for a long time, feeling the strength that had always been inside me, the strength my grandmother had seen and nurtured, the strength that no betrayal could ever take away. They'd tried to destroy me. Instead, they'd revealed who I truly was, and that woman was unstoppable. Now, I want to hear from you. Have you ever had someone close to you betray your trust in a way that changed everything? How did you find the strength to fight back and reclaim your life? Share your thoughts and stories in the comments below. Your experience might be exactly what someone else needs to hear today. If this story resonated with you, please give it a like and subscribe to hear more true stories of survival and triumph. Share this with anyone who needs a reminder that they're stronger than they know. Together, we can support each other through the darkest times and celebrate the victories that come from refusing to give up. Thank you for listening to my story. Thank you for being part of this community. And remember, no matter what you're facing right now, you have everything you need inside you to overcome it. Stay strong, stay hopeful, and never let anyone make you doubt your worth. Until next time, take care of yourselves and each other.